Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Vayne updated complete guide for the latest patch 5.2. So let's jump straight into our items, runes, and spells. But of course, before we do that, don't forget to check out Vayne's basic guide that I'll put up in the cards above for skills, leveling order, tips, and tricks, as well as some combos. But into the items. So first up, I like to go for Gluttonous Greaves. Now, this is somewhat of an unpopular option because I believe a lot of the top players take like attack speed, and this one takes defensive. But I personally think that the Gluttonous Greaves is going to be the best. Now, this does make your laning a little bit weaker because you don't get the attack speed early and instead you get attack damage and Omnivamp. But from my personal experience playing Vayne for honestly like 3 years at this point, I never really found it to be a very big problem. I actually think that Gluttonous Greaves is better because you heal, you get Omnivamp, which means that you heal off of the true damage procs on your W. So in the long run, I think Gluttonous Greaves is going to be better, but in the early lane, definitely you are losing out on some damage because of your lack of attack speed. So for your first 3 items, it's pretty much going to be the on-hit 3 core items. So basically Bork, first, of course, attack speed, AD, physical Vamp, as well as the health on hit, as well as the drain passive. Now, this is pretty much always going to be first item on Vayne because if you're playing Vayne, you must be playing into a tanky team. Now, I wouldn't recommend playing Vayne into a non-tanky team because there are going to be a lot of other better options for an ADC to pick. You pretty much only want to play Vayne into tanky teams, which means that the Blade of the Rune King is always going to give you a lot of value because of the health on the enemy team. Then we have Terminus, AD attack speed, magic damage on hit, as well as gaining stacking resistances. Very useful because Vayne is going to be in very close quarters with the enemies. And of course, you also get the stacking armor and magic pen, which is of course going to help with Vayne's non-true damage auto attacks. Then we have the Wit's End, which of course gives you attack speed, magic resist, on hit magic damage once again, and heals you when you're below half health. So this one is pretty useful because pretty much there'll always be magic damage on the enemy team. Even if there isn't, it's a very cheap item. It's only like 2,700, I believe. Yep, it is 2,700, so really cheap item, gives you a lot of value. And then your last 2 items are very flexible. So if you want to go like full damage, you want to go ham, it's pretty much going to be Triforce. Gives you health, attack speed, AD, and ability haste. And of course, the most important part of it, aside from the amazing stats, is going to be the Spellblade passive, which you can proc pretty much all of the time using your Tumble, which are going to be interweaving between your auto attacks anyway. And then I like to go for Bloodthirster. Gives you a lot of AD, physical Vamp once again, and just very good stats. Now, Bloodthirster's 50 AD is completely amazing because you see we have like 20 here, we have like 40 here. We don't have a lot of AD, so if you get Bloodthirster, you're gonna get a lot of AD. Now, of course, you do have a lot of other options. Like if you're into a heavy AP team, you could even go for Maul. Last item or second last item, you could go for something like GA, like Starex, even Shield Bow. And you have even more attack speed items here like Phantom Dancer and Slurry Charge Blade that you can go for if you prefer, swapping out some of the on-hit items or even putting these as your last few items for just absurd amount of attack speed, to be honest, which you don't really even need. But anyways, yeah, so speaking of attack speed, we have, of course, Lethal Tempo for the attack speed, which is going to be very useful throughout the entire game just because Vayne wants to proc her passive often. Brutal, of course, because you auto attack a lot. Giant Slayer, because again, you're playing into a tanky team, so Giant Slayer is going to be really good here. Alacrity for more attack speed. You could also go for the Omnivamp, but honestly, you have a good amount of both in your build already, so this is kind of a little bit of preference. And of course here we like to take Bone Plating just for the extra defensive capabilities in lane as well as in the later stages of the game. And finally for the spells, it's Flash and Ghost 100% of the time. I've basically never taken Exhaust on Vayne because Ghost is just so crucial on Vayne to get the attack speed to run people down or to kite people out. It's pretty much a must-have. But anyways, with all that said, let's move on to talking about our gameplay. Okay, so now hopping into the gameplay. Now, as I mentioned quite extensively, to be honest, in the build section of the video, Vayne is not really a very strong champion at the moment. Because Vayne basically builds on hit, and there are a ton of champions that are way better building on hit. Champions like Kai'Sa, champions like Varus, for example. So, even like into tanky teams, there is an argument that on-hit Varus is like better. Even on-hit Kai'Sa in some instances because of her mixed damage is better. So pretty much the only time you want to pick Vayne is if the enemy team is like really tanky. And by really tanky, I mean 3 tanks minimum, or something like 4 tanks is like probably the main time you want to pick Vayne because Other than this particular kind of situation, probably building on-hit Kaisa or on-hit Varus is just going to be better, because you just do more damage in general, and not just to tanks, but just in general, like to squishies as well, and they are just better champions than Vayne at the moment. Vayne really is struggling to find her place in this current meta, just because, as I said, with on-hit items being so strong and crit items being so weak, on-hit champions like even Ashe, Kaisa, Varus, they are all just better than Vayne. So Vayne's niche is of course dealing that true damage on top of the on-hit damage, and as I said, you only want to do that against like tanks. So here in this particular game, we have Maokai support, who is a tank, and then we have Amumu in the jungle, who I assumed was a tank, but then I realized he's actually taking Electrocute, which of course I wouldn't have known in the draft. So in the draft, I assumed that he was a tank. And then we have Jax and Pantheon, who aren't really tanks, but they are fighters and they can build health. Especially Jax, who definitely will build health. Pantheon may or may not build health, depending on whether he goes for something like a Black Cleaver or he just goes for straight full damage. So yeah, so in the draft, I thought this was a 4 kind of tank team, or at least like 2 tanks and 2 tanky fighters kind of team. So I was like, alright, this is the time to pick Vayne. Turns out that Amumu isn't even building tank. He's building AP. He's going for like that grenade, glance cannon kind of Amumu. So anyways, regardless, by that time we're already in game. We already have Vayne picked. So we're going to see what we can do about the situation. Now Vayne in general, in terms of the support she wants, if you're like duo or anything like that, generally playing her with enchanters are better. Lulu of course is her best support. Yuumi is amazing as well, because Vayne is a very strong late game hyper carry. She scales very well every item that she gets. But her early game is not actually that bad in terms of the damage that she can do. It's just that she you know, gets outranged by a lot of champions, because even though she does have the same range as majority of champions, she doesn't have any long range abilities. So what I mean by long range abilities is technically she has like the same range as Jhin, for example, but Jhin is able to hit people out of his auto attack range with his W or with his ult or with his Q, even if he bounces it all the way to you. But Vayne has no way of attacking anybody at all except within her auto attack range. So pretty much that's why, you know, people always say that Vayne has really horrible range. It's not because her base attack range is really short, it's because she doesn't have any long range abilities to hit anyone with. So here Maokai goes for the toolkit, and basically from what I notice now is that the toolkit is pretty much a big bait. Yes, there are a couple of useful items or useful things you can get from the toolkit, but by and large it's kind of just a bait. What I mean by that is people are gonna get baited to standing on it for like that 2 seconds or so to collect whatever is inside the toolkit, but during this time you can basically free fire on them and they're gonna take a lot more damage than what the toolkit is really worth. So it's a pretty bad trade in my opinion to do that. Here Wukong coming in for the gank. Nami uses the wave to speed me up as well as to knock out hopefully someone, but no one. Wukong already kills the Caitlyn and smites down the Maokai for the slow, and I'm able to get the last hit on Maokai. So 1 kill for me, 1 assist for the Nami, and a kill and an assist for the Wukong, because obviously Caitlyn died before either me or Nami could do anything about the situation. So here we start hitting the tower as 3 people. Now this is pretty bad because, in case you guys didn't know, towers get increasingly tanky the more people there are in the early stages of the game. And by early stages, I think it's like pre 8 minutes or something like that. I forgot the exact timer, but basically in laning phase, towers get very tanky when there's more people there than there should be. So for mid lane and top lane, if there is more than 1 person, the tower gets a lot more tanky. And for dragon lane, if there are more than 2 people, the tower gets a lot more tanky, because there should, quote unquote, there should only be 2 people there. So this is why Nami basically walked away a little bit to let me and Wukong hit the tower, because overall, me and Wukong do a lot more auto attack damage and Nami doesn't really do that much. So having the 2 highest damage people there to hit the tower makes the most sense. Anyways, here we get pushed in a little bit. So despite killing the Caitlyn and the Maokai, of course Caitlyn is kind of a hard counter to Vayne. But Maokai for some reason hops over the wall here. I condemn him into the wall, pop the ulti, he gets knocked out by Nami. I try to hide behind Nami to not get hit by the root, but I get hit by it anyway, so I'm forced to basically flash the wall. Now I see Amumu here, so I'm thinking my best case scenario is if I trade onto the Caitlyn, which is exactly what I do. And this was the point where I actually realized that Amumu is actually building AP, because I got hit by his Electrocute and I was thinking, wait a minute, why does he have Electrocute? Then I realized he has a Liandry's and I realized he's building AP. So I didn't even notice it prior to this, even in the loading screen, because I wasn't paying attention. But yes, Amumu is building AP, and I think if he was building AD, there is a world where I kite him out there if he doesn't land the bandage toss. But because he is AP, he just one-shots me because of the electrocute. So, but in doing so, Wukong was able to pick up the mimics, and with the mimics in tow, we can of course try to get some tower damage down. So here, in order to do that, we have to kind of push in first, and that's a little bit of an issue. Here I tried to condemn Caitlyn to the wall, but I mistimed the angle a little bit. So now we're running down Maokai instead. Maokai is hex flashing away. Caitlyn's trading onto me, but I am getting a really good chunk of damage here from my my Silver Bolt's passive, and Caitlyn is kind of forced to run away. And with that amazing trade, Caitlyn still is sticking around under tower because she doesn't want to lose the minion wave. Wukong is in the area ready to dive. Here I'm going to go for this tower. I did get the mimics down just now inadvertently while trying to chase the kill onto Caitlyn, which kind of works out, I guess you could say. But here we're going to greet for this wave a little bit, despite it being in a relatively bad position. Wukong is seen hex gating away, which kind of gives away the fact that he's no longer here. So if Maokai engages on us, we could be in a little bit of trouble. He does have ulti, so he could try to do that, but thankfully Caitlyn does take a little bit of time to get back to lane off of her death. So it does end up that Maokai doesn't, of course, go in by himself. So anyways, here we're going to grab a recall, grabbing some daggers for even more attack speed. Of course, on Vayne and most on-hit champions, you always want to get the attack speed component first, because obviously the faster you attack, the more you can apply your on-hit effects. So here, taking stock of the game at the moment, Wukong is incredibly fed, so am I. I'm pretty fed as well. Zyra not looking too good, but before that, we go into a fight here. We are able to pick off the Caitlyn, and now we're trying to chase the Maokai down. I pop the ghost. He is running for the fruit. He gets the fruit, but I condemn him somehow not into the wall, but we are able to pick up the kill on him eventually regardless. So looking at the state of the game, Wukong's incredibly fed, I'm incredibly fed, Nami is doing pretty alright. Zyra and Diana, however, not doing too hot. So of course that means that on the flip side, Maokai, Caitlyn are not doing too hot. But you can see that someone like Jax is actually doing pretty well, and even Amumu is also doing pretty well as well. Now Pantheon, a little bit of a mixed bag. He does have a decent amount of gold with 6k, decent KDA, but he doesn't seem to be playing too well. As you guys can just see from this random death that he just copped for no good reason. So here, either way, we're now going to back. We're of course going to pick up the components for the Terminus. Alright, so as you guys know, a couple of days ago, we did have a hotfix buff for things like the T-Hex and I believe the Gorilla Turret and the Mimics as well as of course Eclipse and Sundered Sky. So I don't know about you guys, but I do think that there is a slight improvement in terms of the T-Hex. I say slight because it's still, again, someone riding the T-Hex is going to lose you so much value, but yeah. So here I'm focusing down the Amumu. I managed to basically condemn him. I'm not sure how I survived there, to be very honest. Now I'm desperately trying to lifesteal off of these Raptors so I can rejoin the fight, but the fight pretty much ends, so I just end up taking the Raptors instead. But yeah, I have no idea how I survived. I got pretty much hit by Amumu and Maokai's CC, and Caitlyn was focusing me down as well. But somehow not only did I survive, but I also killed the Amumu with my final bolt before I flashed over the wall. And I actually survived, which is kind of weird. Of course, Maokai did not have flash to follow, and Caitlyn did, but she was a little bit too far away. And probably if she flashes to 1v1 me, I actually think that there is a world where I kill her because she's 0-3, whereas I'm 6-1 with 2 completed items. I actually do think I kill her if she flashes the wall there, so probably a good decision from her not to do so. And anyway, so Jax is probably the biggest problem of the enemy team. You can see in terms of gold, he has the second most gold in the game after Wukong, and of course Jax kind of counters ADCs just by default because with his E, he immunes auto attacks. So here, again, Pantheon, really questionable play. Yeah, Zyra picks up the kill onto him. Now I'm trying to help Nami with this Jax. Jax has a lot of kills, but he also has a lot of deaths. Now he tries to ignore Nami and just go for the tower. He ends up taking a bunch of damage and eventually just dies to a tower shot because he focused me under tower. So I pick up the kill onto him, and now we're going to just clear out this wave. Diana basically steals the majority of the wave and the ward kill as well. Pretty annoying, especially considering the fact that she's 2, 9, and 5, so kind of useless at this point. And now we're going to try to focus the dragon to get this Infernal Drake, which also of course deny the enemy team's possibility for. So Pantheon for some reason ults. He's not even a jungler, he's the mid laner. So he just jumps into basically 5 people, and we kill him within a second. So here I'm trying to get the wave again. Again, Diana is trying to stop me from getting the wave. Now here, I'm trying to get the skull, and Diana is also trying to get the skull. She gets the skull, and now I'm trying to go for the bot wave, and what is she doing? She's following me to the bot wave. Of course, getting a ward down first. There's a control ward in that bush over there. Diana once again steals all of the farm, which is again really nice. She basically went to all 3 lanes and followed me and picked up the farm from all 3 lanes. Now it could not be any more irritating than that. So obviously I'm gonna do the next most logical thing, which is I'm gonna let her die to those 3 enemies, and I'm gonna go farm the Krugs instead. I mean, anyways, honestly, not like another death is really gonna matter. She's 3, 10, and 5 at this point in time. Although I will say that even being 3, 10, and 5, she has Ludens and Death Cap. So if she gets off like a good ulti, she is still gonna actually be useful. Now my super fat Wukong, my 11-0 Wukong going in on the Pantheon doesn't finish the job. I'm gonna ult in with the stealthing past the Caitlyn and killing the Pantheon instantly. For some reason, Caitlyn decides to go onto the Wukong. I assume that was before she saw me, but Wukong just one-shots her, basically 100 to 0, being as fat as he is, and Caitlyn being as behind as she is. And here we're gonna go flash on top of the Jax to kill him, because obviously, as I said, he's the biggest threat. So using my flash to get him off the map is definitely gonna be pretty useful. Now Amumu was spotted nearby. Wukong is trying to chase him down, and actually does get the chase down. Amumu gets the ult onto the Wukong, so I'm gonna just tumble in to finish off the kill, because Wukong is stunned and can't finish the kill anyways. So here, multiple people off the map. Diana is pinging for Baron, which is honestly not a bad idea, except for the fact that she just took the Hex Gate and Wukong is on the opposite side of the map. So Baron not really doable at this point in time. Wukong actually TPs to do the Baron, so okay, I guess we're doing Baron. So we have the enemy jungler still dead, and we're gonna probably secure it in time. The only question is, are we gonna get trapped into a fight in the Baron pit? Looks like the answer is no. Caitlyn is setting up the trap line at the choke point, but it's not like we're actually going to walk there, so that's kind of irrelevant. Wukong gets back. I'm going to back as well. I already have my triple on-hit items completed. Now I go for a QSS. Of course, this is very essential for this game. We have CC on literally every member of the enemy team that I can QSS. So a super high value QSS game here. T-Hex is getting rode by Nami and is coming straight down the mid lane. Here it is, and yeah, so here TX goes in with the Q. Jax is trying to split push on the side, and Wukong is going to deal with him. Now, I think if anyone can deal with Jax, it's probably Wukong. Wukong has the anti-heal, he is super fat, and he should probably be able to handle the Jax. Hopefully he doesn't die like 1v1 to Jax, that would be a disaster. Amumu tries to go in onto everyone. He does manage to get the kill onto Zyra, and as I say that, Wukong actually dies, gives Jax the 1k shutdown. Now I'm trying my best to chase down Maokai, which I do get. I QSS the Pantheon, and unfortunately the TX was not able to block the Caitlyn out for me because it was too slow, because TX has insanely slow movement speed, and I do end up dying to the Caitlyn ulti, which then also gives Caitlyn a shutdown, and that's Caitlyn's first kill of the game. So yeah, that's not too hot. Yeah, so anyways here, T-Hex trying to take the tower, incredibly slow, doesn't really do very much, unfortunately. However, the minions are doing probably more work than the TX itself. The minions are taking the inhibitor tower on the bot lane, and Amumu is only now just trying to stop it. T-Hex ulti goes in, doesn't really hit the Caitlyn all that much because it's super duper easy to dodge. Again, this is kind of why I say the TX is kind of useless. TX expires, so Nami pops back out. Diana dies right before the dragon, and yeah. So here I'm going to get the red buff, and then I'm going to Hex Gate up to the dragon, which enemy team of course can see, but it doesn't really matter to me at this point because it's quite obvious that we're going to fight a dragon anyways. So I mean, the fact that they know I'm here doesn't really give them all that much information in my opinion. So here the Zyra 3 and 7, she's not very useful. I'm going to pick up the blue buff instead because Vayne uses a lot of mana since she has to spam her Q. And here we're kind of getting pushed off the dragon by the enemy team. I'm kind of just trying to wait for someone to do something. So here Amumu gets interrupted by Nami. I'm just going to run him down. Maokai just jumps in by himself. Not really the best idea. Caitlyn is not hitting anybody, and basically the Maokai just gets run down by our team. Jax decides to go and try to split push, and here Diana's gonna start the Jax. Now I have no doubt that Diana will die to Jax, because Jax is 12 and 11, whereas Diana is 4 and 12. And as I say that, Diana evaporates instantly. But however, I'm not too scared, because if Jax just keeps on pushing, I believe that we will end the game before Jax can. So I'm not too scared. I'm not backing. I'm just going to keep on pushing. Zyra actually backs and tries to stop the Jax. I'm pretty sure Zyra's gonna die, but here I make a little bit of a mistake. I get stunned under tower with the Pantheon, and we run out of minions pretty much. So here is now a sticky situation, because now we have Jax in the base. Zyra is able to successfully defend. I get spotted by this stupid ghost thing, and I get spotted by these sweeping the what's that called, the Scry's Bloom as well. And here the enemy team, I'm surprised, they basically just used everything here to kill me, which I guess I am really fed, because I was 14 and 2 at that point. But basically they used Amumu's flash, Maokai ult, Amumu ult, and yeah, they basically used all their major teamfight tools. So they're doing Baron now, but you can clearly see that Wukong is just waiting over the wall. Wukong just hops over, steals the Baron, and flashes out because Amumu smites early. Now that was an incredibly easy steal. He didn't even have to time it, because Amumu just screwed it up by 400 HP. So we end up getting the Baron steal. Yeah, and Wukong just gets out with it for free. So now we have the Diana and the TX, which is the optimal member to have in the TX. So she's kind of feeding the most and probably provides the least value, because at least Zyra's plans does give you a slow and an anti-heal because of her items. So I would say that the right guy is in the T-Hex. So now here, the TX is going straight down mid lane, but we already have the mid lane inhib, so that's kind of useless. So now, this is kind of, I don't know if this is the correct play, but this is the macro that I think is correct, which is that the TX can be used as a distraction. I say that, but it's basically almost dead. The TX is now 1 HP. Now Amumu is trying to stop us from pushing it. I'm popping the ghost, running him down. You can see that we basically we're nearly able to 3-shot him because he is so squishy. And here I'm just going to quickly push down the lane. Here Zyra is pushing the opposite lane, and the TX is keeping them busy in the mid lane. So here we're going to go ahead and grab this tower. If anyone tries to go in on us, we probably just kill them. The TX is now 1 HP, walking straight into the enemy base. I'm surprised that the enemy team didn't just kill it. We have the Baron buff because of the T-Hex though, so we are, creating a lot of pressure here. Here I'm going to pop the ulti, I'm going to go unstoppable so Maokai can't push me into their base. I'm just firing at basically whoever is in my range, but then I realized that, you know what, let me just end the game, let me stop trolling, and we just end the game here. And yeah, so I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.